Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. The WBC champion Tyson Fury is warning Deontay Wilder he will not wait forever. He wants to continue his career. So this has happened on social media, and I'll get to the direct quote in a minute. But first, a little bit of context. As we know, these two fought in February 2020, Fury relieving Wilder of the WBC title, a title he'd held for 5 years. The teams, they had agreed to a third fight, but it was unclear when that was going to happen. Initially, there was talk of July, then potentially October or somewhere there or thereabouts, but the pandemic has sort of left things up in the air. Top Rank in particular, who co-promotes Fury, has said it wants to have a crowd, it wants the gate revenue. Bob Arum even saying potentially the fight could be held in 2021. But following those statements, Frank Warren, Fury's other co-promoter, said no, we want to fight in 2020, and look, we need to get this done and continue with Tyson Fury's career. That's what he wants to do. And this is the sentiment that Fury has echoed in this message to Wilder. See here on screen. He says, at Bronze Bomber, where you at, Mush? The clock is ticking. I'm not going to wait forever. There is other bums in the division that I want to eat for breakfast. Tyson Fury's statement on social media, a message for Deontay Wilder about their trilogy fight. So there's a couple of ways that I think we can look at this, but also I wanted to touch on Deontay Wilder sort of towards the back end of the video, because really he has been sort of MIA in a public sense for basically the past 6 months, but we'll get to that. But Fury with this message, I mean, you could sort of see it as the start of the build-up to the third fight. And we heard from Frank Warren when he went public sort of saying, no, we want to fight in 2020. Tyson wants to have this fight, and if he can't fight Wilder in 2020, look, we need to fight someone else. He needs to stay busy and active. And remembering, Deontay Wilder from that rematch was coming off an injury. There was a bicep injury. He had to have surgery. Apparently by the end of May, he was going to be able to be sparring. But because Deontay Wilder's profile has been so low, there's been so few updates, we really don't know where that injury is at. And the previous update on his injury was to the PBC podcast, but prior to that, it was unclear really what his sort of status was, and still is since that interview. So who knows how his body is tracking in terms of the rehabbing, but you'd have to imagine the extra time because of the pandemic would have been a good thing. But Tyson Fury wants to get a fight in, and given, he's had his demons in the past, and he's spoken about needing to have goals and things to aim for, having a fight in 2020, it would suit him down to the ground. But also, at some point, they're just going to have to pull the trigger, because you may not have crowds back anytime soon to the level that would generate the similar sort of income that the gate did for that second fight, which was close to $17 million. And from what Frank Warren was saying, certainly indicating there is an end date to the contract when the fight can be held by. So obviously he wants to sort of support Fury, get the fight done, and move on with their career. Whereas obviously Bob Arum, who's probably got a lot more financial skin in the game, as it were, than Frank Warren, he wants to sort of push it out as far as possible, because he doesn't want to take a massive financial loss. Because obviously in a pandemic where nothing is guaranteed, no crowds, sponsorship, other things, they're all down, it could be a real tough blow to recover from. So hopefully we actually start to see a bit of action now, and that Bob Arum gets back on script with Frank Warren, and that they start talking about things being locked in. Because we've heard a lot of talk in recent months, but not a lot of action. And if they are going to have a fight in 2020, they're going to have to get cracking in terms of finalising the event proper and announcing it, having proper time to promote it. Obviously, it'll be a different sort of promotion because of, social distancing and all sorts of different things associated with this pandemic. But others are getting back now. There's no reason that they can't too. And fans are baying for the big fighters, the big names, to be back in the ring, continuing their careers. I think there's only so many prospects and sort of mismatches that fans are willing to put up with. As it is, I think if the situation continued for another 6 to 12 months, you might just see a lot of fans sort of drifting off to other, pursuits and hobbies, and boxing may actually sort of contract as a result. So if this fight is to be held in 2020, you'd have to think they're going to have to announce it soon because it's almost September. December will creep up pretty quickly, and you'd think they'd want to have at least 2, possibly 3 months to really try to build this up. And this is where I sort of say you can look at this post from Tyson Fury in a number of ways, because this could be the first shot, as it were, publicly. That's sort of part of the broader promotion. It's the sort of pre-sale before things really sort of become official and we get the fight. But if things don't work out and Deontay Wilder is not ready for whatever reason, then Tyson Fury obviously says he wants to fight someone else, and that would probably be his mandatory challenger. So there's not too much to really sort of say on him wanting to eat others for breakfast, because the WBC has confirmed White is definitely next for Fury. But on Deontay Wilder, he's been so quiet. There hasn't been much coming from the Wilder camp. I mean, you look at his social media, see here on screen, this is from his Instagram, 6 posts in the past 4 months. And compared to his normal sort of posting rate, that is well down. And there really hasn't been too many other times that he has sort of popped up elsewhere, although there was that sort of infamous twerking video that Taylor Swift, his fiance, posted on her Instagram. So, you can see that here on screen. I don't want to play too much of it because, I don't know why he's sort of engaging in that sort of activity. But, it'll be interesting to know, where is he really at? Is the sort of the training, the rehab, how's it going? Because he will be trying to put a plan in place to beat Tyson Fury. You know that he is the type of character that needs this trilogy because he believes he can still win, that he's always in a fight, and that he believes there were a few things that in the second fight which sort of went against him, as he's put out with the various excuses and tried to lay the blame for certain things at other people's feet. Although it was his performance or lack thereof that was really the thing that needs the most attention. So what's the new training setup going to look like? He indicated he was going to make changes. Is he actually going to be able to implement any changes in a meaningful way ahead of a third fight? This trilogy fight, because of the result of the second, it maybe doesn't have the same sort of hype as the sort of rematch did. But there's still some interesting storylines. And even if Deontay Wilder loses again to Tyson Fury, which many are expecting now based off the last performance, Deontay Wilder and his career, where it goes, there's a lot of open questions, but some of those for another day. But clearly, with the trilogy fight, lots to work on, and he's really been quite MIA. But it'll be interesting to know, how's it going? What's he doing? Who's in camp? Have they managed to perfect a few things, or even just, a number of small things he can do better? Because sometimes those small changes could make a big difference. We're talking small percentages sometimes in terms of a good and a bad performance. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.